Hi, I'm Tom March with the March Law Firm in Orlando, Florida, and welcome to the Healthy Family Law Attorney. We have a special guest today, somebody I've known for quite some time, Steve Brooks. Steve is the managing partner of the Brooks Law Group in Tampa, Florida, and in Winter Haven. For nearly 30 years, Steve's practice has been devoted to people problems, personal injury, wrongful death, and social security disability. He's a people-first lawyer dedicated to helping people get the legal representation they deserve. Steve, welcome aboard. How are you?
Doing good, Tom. So glad to join you on your podcast here.
Well, I'm so glad to have you, Steve. I haven't had a personal injury attorney on the channel, and I'm really curious about some of your input here because I do represent clients in family law matters that on occasion, one of the parties has been in a car accident or there's been a slip and fall and they're injured. And there's always a question about, does the other spouse have an interest in that? So when you represent an injured party, person, client in a case, do you typically just represent that person, or if they're married, do you represent their spouse also?
So typically with the injured person, we will represent the injured person for their injuries, and we will also represent their spouse. Primarily because the insurance company, when they settle the case, usually wants the injured party and their spouse to be on the release. And so there is a special kind of claim that the spouse has that we represent them on. And but those claims tend to be much more or less significant than the injured party's claim.
Okay, so that's interesting. So what types of claims do you bring on behalf of the spouse of the injured party?
So those would be called consortium claims. And a consortium claim is a claim in the state of Florida. The Foley Supreme Court in 1971 defined consortium as the companionship and fellowship of a husband and wife. So it's those damages that a wife might suffer as a result of her husband being injured. The sexual relationship, the loss of affection, comfort, companionship, fellowship, society. The husband can't mow the yard anymore. So that's a consortium claim. It's all those things that the injured party has deprived the wife of.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that in some of my family law cases where there's a dispute that arises there. So I know that when you represent injured parties, there's also things that are called pain and suffering or lost wages. Can you tell us what those are?
Sure. Those are what we call non-economic damages. So pain and suffering is a non-economic damage. Emotional distress, loss of enjoyment of life, scarring and disfigurement is a non-economic damage. And so those are the intangibles, the things that you can't add up on a calculator. And they tend to be some kind of multiplier of the actual economic damages. And the economic damages are things like medical bills, potential future medical bills, the lost wages, the lost earning capacity, future lost wages, the things that you can add up on a calculator. So economic and non-economic.
Okay, yeah. Because in family law, a lot of times the client will want to know, okay, my spouse is getting compensation from an accident for lost wages or for pain and suffering. There's a loss of consortium claim. Am I entitled to any of that? So there's a lot of case law that's developed around that in family law. Like if it's lost wages, those would have been wages that could have been used to pay support and so forth like that, where pain and suffering is personal to the injured party. So the courts don't look at that and dividing that in a family law case. But loss of consortium, doesn't that go directly to the injured spouse's husband or wife?
No, the consortium claim is to what is referred to as the deprived spouse. The impaired spouse is the spouse who's injured, and the deprived spouse is the one who has benefits from the consortium claim.
Right. So that's the spouse of the injured party is the deprived spouse.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, great. I think that's very helpful, Steve. Thank you so much. I mean, the purpose of the channel is because we believe that families matter. We want to provide hope and help to your family to successfully navigate the family law process in a healthy way. So this is the Healthy Family Law Attorney. And so I always ask my guests, do you have a healthy tip for our audience today?
So, good question. So I am a type 2 diabetic, and I read a book by Caldwell Esselstyn, MD. He's a physician at the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, and got a really informative book about the endothelial cells. The endothelial cells are the cells that line your arterial walls. And when you eat the standard American diet, fried foods, sugary foods, fatty foods, those endothelial cells can become inflamed. That is by eating more greens. When you eat greens, and the enzymes on your tongue actually go to the gut and produce nitric oxide. Nitrous oxide is able to help your arterial walls rebuild the strength of the endothelial cell and reduce inflammation. And if you actually go on a whole food, plant-based, low-fat diet for 3 weeks, he says you can not only reverse heart disease, but you can be heart attack proof. So eating greens is super great for your arterial health.
And I think that is fantastic. That's great advice, Steve. I mean, that's right up my alley in the sense of I've read so much on inflammation and how that is the source of so many diseases. And when you say standard American diet, people refer to it as the SAD diet.
SAD diet. Yeah.
So I know you probably heard that. So I always tell my clients I think they need to really take care of themselves during the divorce process because it's such a stressful time, and eating healthy is one very important part of that. So thanks for that input. So for our audience, if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, hit that like button, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. Also leave a comment below. If you have a question for Steve, reach out to him. We'll make sure that he gets the questions or the comments, anything you would want to talk with him about or suggest, or reach out to us. We're happy to respond to you. So with that, Steve, I'll say thanks so much for being on the channel.
Thank you so much. It's always good to see you, and Happy New Year. Happy
New Year. That's right. 2022. Awesome. Well, everybody stay safe, stay strong, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tom.